Hey, Arkin here, and welcome to my Bleach Chapter 648 review. So the chapter starts off back at where Askin, I just remembered his name, it's okay, where Askin and Ichigo are. When I first read this, I was kind of thinking like, oh, so it's going to be like one of these things where like 3 battles are now like happening, so it's going to like keep switching in between them, which would make me feel rather disappointed if we didn't immediately get to see what Shunshui's Bankai is. But that's not really why this part's happening. So Askin's sort of just like hanging onto a pole, and Ichigo asks him what happened to Grimmjow. Askin tells him that he's sleeping over there, and Ichigo says, like, is surprised that he beat Grimmjow. And Askin says that he doesn't really like the term beating, even though that's what he did. He won that fight. It was more like a chase. And then, so Ichigo starts running at him, getting ready to attack. And so then, like, everything around them goes black, and they, like, turn, like, pure white. Just like their outline. At first, I thought that this was, like, part of Askin's power until, like, down at the bottom of the page, you see both of their expressions, and they seem surprised. And Ganju's was saying, like, did it, like, get colder here? And Chad's just saying, like, no, it didn't get colder. That's just us getting the chills. Which, I mean, it's just weird. I don't know, I find that weird. And so it cuts back to Ichigo, and he's saying, like, is it you, Kiriko? And then we get the title page, the theater suicide scene 2, and the next chapter is going to be scene 3. The next chapter is going to be scene 4, 5, 6, and 7. Hopefully we get up to 7 again, because man, that'd make my year. I'd say a day, but it's a multiple week thing that's happening, so it really wouldn't. But I mean, I guess it does make sense because it's like, it's a theater, so scene 1's chapter 1 of this, scene 2's chapter 2 of it. It does make sense. And then we kind of get like a better vent, like a side view of what Lily looks like this. And he looks kind of cool, like there are like these gem things floating around him. And I didn't say anything about this, but Lily's head now looks a lot like Mayuri. It's just something that I just noticed, like, I noticed it last chapter. That's why I was saying something about last chapter, but then I forgot. You know, that's just how I am. I remember everything up until the point where I turned on the camera. And so it shows Kiriko, like, walking towards him with, like, all of this power, or, like, spirit energy coming off of him. That's how it looks. And he says that he finally just shows himself. Well, then Shunshui asks him what the world looks like to him. And he asks, does it look bleak and dark? And he said that it does look dark, but he wouldn't say bleak, because the messenger of God doesn't feel despair. He really is not my favorite Stern Ritter. And so he goes up, and I guess shoots this thing down because he just starts floating up. Says that he doesn't feel any despair, and then there's just an explosion, so I'm assuming he shot something down. And then it shows like a bigger explosion, and it just like completely like takes off the end of that like part that they were on. Like it just like takes that completely off. And then he says that he doesn't have any information about his Bankai, but that doesn't really matter. And it's just like this like blood going down Lily, which I thought that was just like a blood, like just like falling off of something, because you know his body is pure white, so it's like hard to tell in between like the background and Lily. They went into like super duper close-ups like this. But no, it turns out that there's a giant hole in his side, so yeah, that happened. And he said that that's the first level wound sharing hesitation. Wound sharing hesitation. Probably shouldn't be doing this while I have a cough, but whatever. And so it turns out that like whatever wounds that he has, it doesn't really specify on whether if like Lily gets one, will Shunshui have it too, or if Shunshui gets it, he'll have it. Like, is it just if Shunshui gets a wound that Lily will have it? Because that seems pretty unfair. Because it's like Shunshui will be attacking him, causing him damage, and then Lily will be attacking Shunshui, causing himself damage. So yeah. And he said, sadly, it's not something you could die from. So, they can't die from this. And then we get the name again. I'm not going to try doing it, because I already got it right, so why would I do it again? And so he says, now time for the second level, the Pillow of Shame. That's the lamest name of an attack ever. So he recites a little story. I'm going to read it. His is a story of a man so filled with regret after wounding himself in battle, and the embodiment of sorrow as he lay on his bed, transformed into an incurable disease. And it shows just like these like blood bubbles like coming out of Lily like everywhere. And like there's like stuff coming out of his eye, and it just looks super gross, which after Mayori's fight I was hoping that we'd be like done with like the super gross stuff for like the rest of the series, but I mean this isn't really anywhere near their level of nastiness. He says, of course, time for the third level. Lifeless Abyss. Which it's now all just sort of like, it looks like they're underwater. Which, yeah, he sort of says like, no, it's just me and you down here in this lifeless abyss. Well, in this reishi underwater until, so they are underwater. It's just water now that they're in until either of our reishis run out. So I'm guessing like who's ever has more reishi will outlast the other person and get to leave. But it looks like Lily's in a bit more trouble than Shunshui, because he has blood just coming out everywhere on him, while Shunshui just sort of has like the shoulder thing coming out off of him. And that's the end of the chapter. This is so far that I'd have to say like the best chapter out of their entire fight, just for the simple fact that now we know what his Bankai does. This is something that we have not had any idea of since the Stark fight. So is it a good chapter? Definitely. Is it better so far than Mayori's new Bankai? Definitely. That thing was a disgusting heap of just grossness. That's the way I want to describe it. Yeah. So, that's all. See you guys next time.